right. Thank you. And so we are going to just spend a little time the rest of this afternoon. We're going to introduce a gallery walk. And so has anybody participated in a gallery walk before? A couple? Yeah. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the gallery walk and how you may use a gallery walk on your campus as you are engaging stakeholders and really starting to think about the research, specifically what you uncovered this morning within the assumptions and what more you need to know. So I don't know if the PowerPoint is up. Look, he's like, hey, okay. Get it up. And we wanted to start off, there we go. And so, oh, it's playing. I'm going to start you off with this video.
We know that single moms make up about 10% of all undergraduates across all institution types. And we also know that they're not achieving the same results as their female peers who don't have children.
A design challenge like this one can be so important in helping colleges think about what they need to do to serve single mothers in their own context.
We want equity. We want to see our single moms succeeding at the same rates as we are seeing our other students.
The purpose of the gallery walk was to help us really deepen our understanding of the experiences that single mother learners have across these 4 campuses and nationally today. To paint that picture, we've collected several different kinds of data and put them together in this gallery. Our hope and our goal is that together this will paint a really holistic picture of what the situation today is for single mother learners.
I believe that having the students at Delgado involved in this process really impacts it in a different way because their voice is weaved into the services that we are looking to create for them.
When we got to work with the lab, we got your expertise on the design thinking, as well as the other colleges to work with and learning from them, with them, bringing in the experts that you've brought to help us better understand our students and what the world of possibility has been amazing.
What I really like about it from a data perspective is people aren't really getting tied to ideas. We force them to sort of think broadly and move quickly.
So our big idea is to integrate Ivy Tech into public housing areas.
The relationships I think that have begun here will continue throughout the design process. We don't just have our other core team members, but an extended family that will travel throughout this process with us.
So what we really love about this project is that the campuses are getting the technical assistance and the resources to implement new, creative, innovative ideas. We can use the lessons they learn to share with other campuses, with policymakers, and with funders.
I love the phrase of digging deeper. The sky's the limit.
Okay, and so so that's a little bit, that video paints the picture of sort of what we do with the questions and what the research that we did this morning. How do we display that? How do we share it with others? Who do we share it with? And how can we use that information and the research that we've learned to really start putting together approaches or solutions that are student-centered? So again, all morning we have been focused on the student. And so what we wanted to do just really quickly is tell you about the gallery walk and think about, as you start this implementation and in your strategic planning, how may you use this gallery walk to help your students, your faculty, your staff, the community really understand what is going on your campuses. What is the student experience on your campuses? So you can see that really what it does is it helps us identify the themes and the insights from that research that then lead us to the ideation phase. Some of the things that we put in our gallery walk are student data, student quotes, stakeholders, images, photos, and videos. I will tell you, you saw a little bit about our single mom challenge, which Ben leads for the lab. And so I think that we were talking about it. I mean, how many students did you interview over that research phase?
Yeah, so at the point where you're seeing in the video, the project itself is a 1.5 year design process. And so this past June, each of the individual colleges actually interviewed their own students and other stakeholders, and at least 20 students, single mother learners, on their campuses, and brought in those voices in order to help understand and learn and then provide the artifacts that were then shared in the galleries. So it was a process getting there. So imagine, all of the things that you built in your empathy map of what students are seeing or hearing or saying. We had real quotes, real conversations with students, and then put that into the gallery to share that out.
Thanks, Ben. And so again, you can see some pictures of what this looks like. In this picture, everything in yellow is something a student told us or told the institution. I feel, I've shared with you guys before that, I spent, I always say, a lot of time, working in the institution and working with institutions. And, as I started working at the lab 2.5 years ago, the gallery walk is one of my favorite events that we hold because you can't not see the student. You cannot hear the student when it's plastered really over an entire room like this full of student quotes telling your administration, telling the community that this is what we need, right? This is the support we're asking for. And so taking that voice as you continue on to build out the programs that really support the students. So we were going to put these up there, but in the interest of time, we're going to go a little bit, we're going to go through past this. And you can see we put the Think Like a Futurist up on the walls. And so over here, this is their creation. I can't read that far. Community, thanks. So these are the Think Like a Futurist. So these are your coworkers and your colleagues and your friends throughout the state who really thought about the futurists and thought about those values and those challenges that not only will impact students in 10 years, but also community. Over here, we have the faculty, so people that really started thinking like a faculty member and how guided pathways implementation would impact faculty, and over here we have staff. So we're going to keep these up, and so what we would recommend is whenever you do have time or a break, to spend some time immersed in what others are saying. What did other people say? Perhaps you also did faculty. What did another group that looked at faculty? How was it different? What were things, what sort of things did they highlight that might be different that you didn't even think about? And then throughout the day, throughout the year, throughout the strategic plan, go back to those things and have conversations as you start to really think about the strategic plan in using a gallery walk. So really quick, we're just going to go through a couple things as you think about doing a gallery walk that we would recommend. The first thing is defining, again, we don't use the word problem, right? So defining the opportunity space on your campus. Where do you see opportunities for further explorations around the guided pathways? So that's the first thing you need to identify, is thinking about it from there. The second is thinking about the qualitative research plan. I know that we have some quantitative people in the back, but for us, I always think of it as big data and little data, but they're both the same size and importance, to think about it, because we have rich data. We have very rich quantitative data, right? But that doesn't give us that second level of learning. So what can we take from the quantitative data and learn? And so a lot of this is in our assumptions when we do single moms work or we do seamless transfer pathways, which I worked on. We actually did, we had what we call a roadblock and leak exercise where we asked people to identify, schools to identify who were their students coming in. After so many semesters, how many had left, how many were still in. And so really tracking, because we have that data, right? That's data that you can get. But the data we don't have as much is why are they leaving? What are the supports that we missed that cause them to leave. And really spending time reaching out and identifying those students and asking the really hard questions that students are super excited to tell you about. I will say they are. They want to talk to us. And when we have them in the room, not only does the room have so much energy and excitement, I'm not saying you guys don't, but it takes a different level of energy and excitement, and they're so excited to tell their story. And you know this because they're in your office, they're in your classroom, they're a part of your day, but they want to be heard. And so this really gives them the opportunity to not only be heard, but then to also have their peers surrounding them to tell a similar story that then can go to an actionable response that changes things for them, that takes that next step. So it's really, but that qualitative research plan is important, and you have to make sure that you get that student voice, which can sometimes be difficult. I always tell people, and I know with single moms, we were looking at single moms, right? And so we were looking for those single moms, but sometimes we get so worried that the right student is who we're talking to that we forget that any student we talk to is the right student. In this process, we don't have to have the adult student with 12 credit hours that left after 4 semesters, right? We get sort of, we get worried that we're not having that. But any student we can talk to is a student that has a voice that can bring to the table when we come to the solutioning space. So the qualitative research plan. And so some of the things you have to ask for there is, how are you going to gather this information? How will you test your assumptions? And what is the timeline for completion? Because that's something else. We talked about things moving fast, right? So everybody's favorite word in higher education. Things move so fast, right? We say that all the time. I wish it would slow down. But we have to think about it. So we have to have a timeline. And we have to figure out, when are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? And how can we get it in front of people quickly? And so again, the setting up, finally, you have to figure out what information you would share. What else you need to learn, because you're going to learn things in that qualitative that we have to go back and even ask more questions. And who are the stakeholders? Again, we had that stakeholder map that you need to invite. And so I will tell you that what I have appreciated about serving as a designer at the Education Design Lab is that when the lab goes in, I'm going to say this tactfully, when the lab goes in, and helps really look at this qualitative research, that we don't take anything out, right? We don't try to paint the picture that somebody else wants to tell. And that's a really important piece. And sometimes we have to have conversations and walk into rooms and say, there are things up here that you don't want to read, right? But we have to read them, and they have to be a part of the story. And so we can't curate the story that we want somebody else to read around the room. It has to be raw, and it has to be student focused. And again, thinking about that, who are the stakeholders that you need to invite to this gallery walk? So that's a little bit about the gallery. Like I said, throughout the rest of the afternoon, as you go around, take a look and really think about what's new or different from what your coworkers, your colleagues, and your friends around the state are saying. What's something that they said that you hadn't even thought of before, and how can you take that to continually learn and then iterate as we start thinking about your strategic plan and the big ideas to come.
And just to piggyback off of all of this, we've done these design challenges with the seamless transfer with single moms work. The single moms work is actually still going on right now. And I apologize. I know my voice has not been carrying. So for those of you listening in at home, I'm going to try to make sure I do this for you the rest of this afternoon. But when we design and when we engage in sessions like this, we always invite students to the table. They often spend a day and a half with us, with you all, in the room, co-designing. And they are designing with us, not just informing us and playing a very specific and a very critical role. But it's very important for us to acknowledge the power dynamics and how the student might feel and how we communicate with them and really address what the expectations are. Often we hear from students, students will tell us, I didn't know this is what administrators did. I thought they just give out grades and, we don't know what they did. And so when they hear these conversations that you are having on behalf of the students, it's exciting for them. To be a part of that, it's very exciting. But we have to acknowledge and recognize, how are we bringing them into the space? Are we allowing them ample time to provide input? And not, making sure that we're not really just signaling to them that we're going to listen to you and then we're going to do whatever it is we do anyways, but continue on with them in the process. So it's very important, as you think about ways that you might bring a gallery to your campus, way that you might share this out, how do you want to bring in these voices and enable your community, including students, to be a part of the process in designing guided pathways?
Thanks, Ben. All right, so now we're going to go into the ideation phase. Woo! Right? Yay! All right, I need more churros, I think, because I didn't get that. Okay, so this is from you guys, right? So this is these are the different phases of implementation. I'm sorry if I'm jumping the exciting gun over there with that plan coming in, but so looking at how you guys are thinking about implementing guided pathways on your campus. So we are going to ask you to stand up. Right? We just ate, so it's time for yoga. No, I'm just kidding. But unless you want to, go ahead. But so we are going to ask you to move. Yay! And we're going to ask you to sit by somebody that is at a different institution than you. Yay! Right? Okay, good. Don't make. We were at Sammy and I. We were at an institution that we will not name. But there were some times where had to physically move people, no, it's cool. Chemistry and English can hang out. They're friends, I promise. And so anyway, we have identified 8 areas. So within this strategic plan. So we have faculty, staff, student engagement, communication, tech, meta majors, programs of study, exploratory sequence for meta majors, intake, advising, and program degree and maps. Okay? So what we're going to do is ask you to choose one of those 8 areas that you want to explore more, specifically one of those areas that you may already have an idea that could be considered a future approach in how your institution, your office, whatever it is, thinks about this piece of guided pathways. All right, so Ben and Sammy very nicely put out little table markers that have the name. So if I can, I will say, I was going to say if I can have Ivana, but you guys know that Ivana's been leading lately, right, on Wheel of Fortune. So very exciting. All right, so maybe just for me. But okay, so if you can you hold this up for me? So you can see, so we have meta majors and programs of study over here. And so again, we need you to get up and find yourself at a table with one of those categories that you're interested in and exploring more in the next hour. Yes, I cannot, but can somebody put the slide back up? All right, so where are my faculty, staff, and student engagement table people? All right, we have one over here. All right, woohoo! Excited. How about communication? All right, Ben is at communication. That's exciting. Technology? All right, we got 2 technology tables. Excellent. I lost my thing again. Meta majors and programs of study. All right, right here. Oh, I even did it in order. Good. Okay, exploratory sequence for meta majors. All right. Oh, we have 2 over here. Excellent. Okay. Intake. Intake. Perfect. Maybe we have 2 intake. Advising. All right, we have advising over here, and program and degree maps. All right. So I am going to hand it over to Sammy, and she's going to walk us through the next piece.
Hello, friends. Is that the next slide? Great, here we are. So we're going to jump right into taking some action. So we went from our understand phase, and we're going to move into action and iteration. So at your tables, you should each have one of these worksheets, correct, everyone? Perfect. So this is called our idea capture. Do you not have any? Over here. Great. Ben is coming over to you right now. Great. So this is called our idea capture. So we want to challenge you all to think big about the essential practice areas that you chose today, and how you can how you can address them to improve guided pathways for your students on your campus. So as you can see on the worksheet, there are 4 sections. So we would like for you to come up with 4 big ideas. And we say big ideas because we don't want you to play it safe. We want you to think outside the box. So 4 big ideas that address the essential practice area on your table to improve the guided pathways experience for your students. So this is going to be a heads down activity. So you're going to do this by yourself for about 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes pass, we'll let you know. And you're going to turn into your table to share for about 5 extra minutes. Sound good? Perfect. All right, everyone, 5 minutes is up. We are going to transition into discussion. You guys have now moved tables and you are around new people. So take the time to introduce yourself, make a friend. You are all drawn to this essential practice area for a reason. So use this time to bounce off ideas, share what you were talking about, what you were writing down, and really take this time to dig deeper. Also, we are going to be collecting these. So please take a picture of your worksheets in case you want to keep track of your ideas.
Okay. We're going to move on. And I just want to recognize how exciting, I feel like, I hope that you all felt that this was exciting as well, as we have a group over here. Now I'm going to have to do fast math, right, with 7. There are 7 people over here, and if all of them created 4 ideas, that means there are 28 ideas just from this one table to be explored within this essential practice. So that's very exciting as we move forward. And so now we're going to ask everyone to think about 1 to 2 of the ideas that came out of your group work to explore further. So taking it to the next step, what we recommend is no more than 4 people on 1 idea, because more than that gets a little bit messy when it comes to the ideation phase. So if you have 5, you might have to separate to 3 to 2, okay, right? We have that math. And every table should still have a poster that Sammy is going to show us. Thank you, Sammy, which is this early concept development. And we say early because it is early. We, as a group, have not heard really from our students around the assumptions that we're making, and so normally that would be a part of this process, but we did want to recognize the expertise that is in this room as we move towards iteration and ideation in these essential practices. So now it is time to iterate. So again, as a table, choose at least 2 or more. If you want to just work in a pair, that is fine as well. To sit down and really expand this idea, to think about these things, to think about what is the big idea. What is it? Perhaps it is something that came together as you talked and thought, well, that was a really good piece. We should add it to this idea. So what is the big idea? Describe it in detail. The second thing is to identify what unmet needs does it meet for students. What is the unmet need that it meets? How will the students benefit from this idea? Also, in an ideal scenario, how will this be implemented? Who are the key stakeholders that not only do you have to have on board, but whose voices have to be a part of this idea to make it come to fruition? Who are those people? And then, in the spirit of rapid innovation and iteration, we're going to think about how do you test this idea? So what are some of the assumptions that you're making on why this benefits students and their unmet needs? And then how are you going to test those assumptions from this idea with students? How will you get this in front of them? How are you able to get feedback immediately from your users? And then also, what more do you need to know? What is information that you just don't have to help with the implementation of your idea? I see Ben.
Yeah, as you are thinking about these ideas, I want to just caveat and say, I know, again, these are early concepts. Really, perfection is the enemy of good, right? We are not looking for the perfect idea here. We are looking for ideas that you can really step into, take back to your campuses and try and test out and talk to more folks to see if it's going to work and learn from. So in the spirit of learning, in the spirit of design and really stepping into it, we're not looking for perfect. We're looking for fast and buildable, learnable.
Yes, we prefer imperfection. The other piece that is important to remember is, again, this table over here produced perhaps 28 ideas, right? Just because you're only focusing on 2 doesn't mean that the other 26 aren't amazing and, should be explored further. Okay, so we will collect those big idea captures just so we can have them available to share out system-wide. But if you want to keep that, take a picture of it. Something that we always recommend in these sessions is to think about the folks that are not here, to think about the coworkers who are perhaps stranded somewhere in the snow or are unable to make it because only 5 people from your institution could come. We know that there are change makers on your campus that you want to share your idea with. So take a minute, perhaps, to take a picture and to text, to email, or to just reach out to that colleague and let them know, this is a cool idea that we thought of, and I couldn't help but think about how crucial you are going to be to bring this to fruition on our campus. Again, this is a whole campus redesign, so we have to involve the whole campus.
And in the spirit of sharing out, and for the benefit of those who could not make it with us here today, we wanted to invite perhaps 1 or 2 really exciting ideas right now from this group. Like, who has an idea that they put down that they want to share out from the group? Or else we start picking on people. I see a hand perhaps coming up this way. Can I ask you to share out perhaps one of your idea? If you can just say what is the area that you have and then the idea.
It's less than half-baked. Our area is meta majors and programs of study, and I've got some faculty on my campus working on the idea of contextualized math and English for each pathways. Pathways English, pathways math.
Contextualize math and English for each of the pathways. Okay, very good. Another perhaps practice area. How about somebody from advising? Do we have a volunteer to share out one big idea?
We didn't actually get through all of sharing, so I'm sharing with my table for the first time here. Our essential practice was advising, and one of the big ideas is really looking at equity mindset and inclusive advising practices. I think we've done a lot of that focus has been in inclusive pedagogy and what that looks like in the classroom. But what does that look like when a student walks into an advising appointment or a counseling appointment? And what preparation have we done for our student services staff with regard to being culturally vulnerable and recognizing what cultural humility looks like in that practice?
Great. A lot of promising starts. Wonderful.
So we will put some more time on our clock over here. And so again, looking for groups of 4 or less to start ideating and iterating on these big ideas. Sammy gave us 20 minutes. Oh, question, yes. Did you all hear that? So there's been a request that it may be beneficial for teams to come back together within their institutions as we build out these.
So
So perhaps what we can do is this. If you do feel that you are at a place where you want to sit back with your teams, let's go ahead and leave room for that and make that happen. We do ask that if you are comfortable with being uncomfortable, and we asked you to really embody this this morning. Part of the reason why we've shuffled the teams and asked you to sit with other individuals is that often in our own institution, there is a way of thinking, right? And so how do we break through that to really cross-pollinate ideas and hear from others whom we may not have heard from previously? How do we, engage in saying, this actually worked at my campus. Oh, we have not tried that yet. Can we do that or employ a similar idea? And so these are opportunities that we were hoping to be able to provide. And I know, you guys, like you all are here and really thinking you want to be able to sit down. Perhaps you have a very exciting idea that you want to move forward with your campus. And there will be time for that later this afternoon. So, if you feel like you must sit with your campus now, let's go ahead and allow for that. But if you can sit and in the spirit of just learning from one another and sharing out with one another, if you can stay within these groups for now, that would be great. Okay, it's only another 30 minutes or so. Okay, so if I can have your attention here. Hopefully that time gave you an opportunity. If I can have your attention, if you can hear me, just put your hand up in the air. If you can hear me, put your hands up in the air. All right. All right. Thank you so much for engaging in that activity with us and really allowing, the time and opportunity to kind of share out and build out these early concept development. I know that we went through a very, very, very rapid process over the last few hours, and I wanted to commend all of you for being able to think through this space and really, what we came up with together in this room are hopefully tangible ideas and solid concepts that you can bring back to your teams, to your school, and start to explore how might we be able to take this idea even further? How might we be able to take this initial concept and really be able to better understand and engage with our stakeholders in a meaningful way so that guided pathways can be implemented on your campus over time. We also hope that there are a lot of the tools and templates that we provided you can bring back and actually use those tools and templates in your own process, in your own sessions, throughout your campus experience in whatever roles or in whatever areas that you serve. Wanted to take just a couple last minutes to go through some activities and a couple of things that are listed in your packet that we will not do this afternoon, but we're going to have you go. Okay, so at the last page, just to kind of orient you, you do have a set of the Washington State Guided Pathways Guiding Principles. So these are resources from you all that we were able to take. And then also, we have a list of institutional design criteria. I wanted to call attention to this list here because we asked you to think big. We ask you to think about what is the possibility of guided pathways for your institution and brainstorm and come up with these ideas. However, we know that the reality of community colleges and for higher educations at large is that there are constraints and there are limitations that we do have to really work within. And so the guided pathways, guiding principles provide a sort of guardrails that you should be able to think about and use to leverage and move forth your ideas. Additionally, the institutional capacity design criteria, these are a set of design criteria that we use in our daily work to think through when we talk about how do we really impact students and move the needles for students. These ideas, they have to be doable, right? If they are not doable on your campus, then the idea, we need to rethink and iterate. If it is not doable today, we ask you to think about how might we get this to work? How might we reconfigure or iterate or adjust what we're thinking in order for it to work if we know this is the right idea? Measurable, right? We need to be able to assess whether or not this tool or this initiative or this concept will work and if it has meaningful impact for students. Scalable and sustainable. Can we roll it out at large? Can we roll it out across campus to different programs, or is it limited to a certain program? And then is it sustainable over time? Things that we want you to think about as you continue to explore this work. And then, so lastly, just very quickly, wanted to talk through project mapping and just building your team. The way that we have approached team building and thinking about configuring who needs to be in the room and how you build this project. These are 2 pages that you can consider taking back and sitting down with your teams and thinking, you may already have a team in place, but given what we've talked about this morning until now, thinking about being very student-centered, how might you reconfigure your core design team? Who are the essential key players who needs to be in the room in order to design and carry forth the work? Who are the extended design team, other stakeholders that need to be on board that can be champions of this work, and even other stakeholders? Are there employers in the area, alumni who can really, be participants in this space? And then throughout this, we ask, when and how will you bring students to the table as part of your core team? And the last thing, project mapping. It's a blank space, but really thinking about how do we make this happen? When do you engage? When do you talk to people? When are critical dates or milestones in the next couple years as you roll out or think about the implementation of your guided pathways? This is a space where you can write that down and jot it down and just kind of put it on a timeline. This is a very good exercise for the sticky note activities. If you take this back to your campus, a clear blank whiteboard with just a simple line. The sticky notes work really well because when you have to adjust things, you can just kind of move it along or fast track it as needed. We call it a template. It's a blank space, but something that we invite you to really use at when you take this back. And you might have noticed Sammy went around to take pictures of your posters because we do always like to archive things and think through. Please, if there's an exciting concept that your table came up with, take a picture, send it to, we call them accountability buddies. Send them to somebody who might be on your stakeholder list now and say, hey, I went to this session and we collaborated on this idea. I think it has a lot of good potential. Let's sit down and talk about it when we get back to the campus. So we invite you all to do that.
Yes, and just if you want to go to the next slide. While you were ideating and iterating and inventing, we left some exit tickets that we call at your tables. So if you have a moment, we would really appreciate any feedback that you have. Just as you are iterative and inventive, we are always looking for wonderful feedback on how we could do better and how we can help others really move the needle. Higher education is a wonderful group to be a part of. And so we continue to work with others. So how can we continue and push others and help them towards finding the right solution in their opportunity spaces as well? And if you are interested and want to follow the work of the lab and what we are doing, feel free to put your email at the bottom and we can add you to our Innovator Network, which is an email that goes out every 2 weeks, Sammy says. I'm on the Innovator Network, so I should know that. But anyway, that comes out every 2 weeks. It just highlights some of the sessions that we've been involved in. And also you can follow us, of course, on the lab. Check out our website. Follow us on Twitter. On Instagram. Nope, not Instagram yet. I'm working on it though. Okay, so all of those things. And finally, thank you thank you for having us here. Thank you to the Washington State Board for having us here. We really appreciated it, and I hope that you all found something meaningful out of the work today.
Hello. I think we're still on here. Okay. So join me in giving another nice, warm Washington thank you to the friends who flew out in the weather and joined us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we now have time for a quick break, and I want to throw out an additional option. If folks want to take a truncated break and then come back to do a quick information session with Bob and Dina, and a little bit of an intro to the work plan, and then we'll have some team time to continue to work on what we're moving toward as a system. And then we'll be done with our day together and hopefully go enjoy a little time in the evening. So voting, hands high. Do you want a shortened break so we can get out a few minutes early? Fair enough. The current break is 15 minutes. I'm thinking 5. 7 most. Okay. All right. So be fast in your break. Enjoy your moments. And to be back at 2 o'clock. It is currently 1:54.